Welcome to US Finox. If you are here to learn the exact mechanics behind high-level conversion, hit subscribe and let's get to work. There is a persistent myth in business that closing a deal requires high-pressure tactics, arbitrary pricing gimmicks, or psychological manipulation to force a signature. Elite operators run a different model. This chart compares two distinct revenue trajectories. The red line represents transactional manipulation, tricking the buyer to create a rapid initial sales spike, which is followed by a steep crash. Look at the red path. When you rely on trickery, like pretending inventory is out of stock, or using arbitrary 99-cent pricing gimmicks, you destroy trust. That drop-off point represents accelerated client churn and the end of repeat business. Now, look at the blue path. When an operator prioritizes absolute honesty, even telling a prospect not to buy a product if it is a bad fit, they create a self-sustaining cycle. This approach generates repeat business and increases client lifetime value. Presenting personal vulnerability and admitting your actual challenges is a calculated, effective mechanism for building professional trust. Predictable revenue is not a matter of coercion. It is the predictable outcome of establishing long-term relational trust. This brings us to the principle of selling the sizzle, not the steak. When a buyer enters the market, they rarely prioritize a product's raw technical features over the result those features provide. They are purchasing mission alignment. They are buying an identity and the specific emotional outcome that using your product provides them. Consider how the most prominent CEOs operate. Elon Musk rarely pitches the precise battery specifications of a vehicle. He sells the grand mission of pushing humanity forward. When you frame a vehicle purchase as an active step to save the planet, you bypass the traditional feature comparison shopping process. This strategy has historical proof, perfectly illustrated by the famous Kodak carousel pitch. The physical device itself is simply a cold, mechanical ring of plastic and metal. But the presenter ignored those mechanical capabilities. He utilized personal vulnerability, showing photographs of his own children, to focus the room entirely on the emotional weight of memory. That is how he secured the deal. This mission-driven alignment drives outcomes that technical specifications alone cannot, such as propelling a product to the top of sales charts before a single customer review is even published. If you force a buyer to line up your technical specs against a competitor's spreadsheet, you have already lost the emotional sale. Emotional theory requires operational mechanics to function. Authentic sales relies on an engineered process to turn trust into signed contracts. Operators use a three-step conversion protocol. This strict filtration system eliminates high-friction targets before real effort is expended. Step 1. Qualify the need. Pitching a pen's ink quality without confirming the prospect actually writes is a waste of time. This step has an immediate fail state. If there's no genuine need, abort the pitch. Don't force a bad fit. If the need exists, move to step 2, establishing bilateral fit. Both buyer and seller must respect each other for the deal to survive. Once steps 1 and 2 are successfully cleared, the friction is gone. The environment is perfectly primed for the final stage. Step 3 is presenting the solution. Notice that introducing the actual product or contract only happens at the very end of this sequence. When you execute this properly, clients will often dictate the pricing and contract terms themselves because they actively want the seller to succeed and remain profitable. Skipping this qualification protocol to deliver a premature pitch guarantees a hostile, low-conversion environment. This brings up a critical operational problem. What happens when a prospect passes step 2, meaning there is a strong relational fit, but fails step 1 because they lack an immediate need for the product? You have to maintain a continuous, low-pressure communication loop. This requires rigorous tracking systems and CRM tools to keep the relationship active without forcing a sale. Deploy touchpoints to keep the relationship warm. Send industry news and value-add intelligence at regular intervals over months or years. This requires relentless consistency. It can take nearly a decade of monthly check-ins to finally win a major enterprise account. A CRM is an automated engine, ensuring you are first in line when the client's need inevitably arises. Direct one-to-one outreach is effective, but it eventually hits a hard capacity ceiling. To scale the operation, you must implement asymmetric leverage. The first force multiplier is radical market disruption. You have to execute wild ideas that force the market to stop and pay attention. This means proposing an absurd 2-dishwasher kitchen layout so people never have to unload plates, or building a multi-story glass staircase in a town center just to generate PR. Once you have attention, you apply the second force multiplier, the 1 + 1 = 11 equation for brand partnerships. Aligning your relatively unknown company with a massive, established brand instantly transfers their authority onto you. Securing a premier partner often requires a strategic upfront investment. You might have to offer your absolute best services for free initially to build an undeniable case study. Disruptive PR and borrowed authority allow boutique operators to capture enterprise-level attention without an enterprise-level budget. The final, most potent form of leverage is turning non-sales staff and external contacts into a decentralized sales force. It is an operational imperative to train everyone in your orbit to articulate your mission. Your colleagues, your accountants, and even your family members must know exactly what you do and why it matters. An employee in a purely financial role can become the company's highest lead generator simply by advocating for the business to their own external network. When existing clients are treated with the absolute authenticity we outlined earlier, they naturally transform into your most aggressive promos. True sales mastery requires pulling all of these components together. You align behavioral psychology with rigid deal mechanics and network scaling. High-performance sales is never about pressure or trickery. It is the inevitable outcome of engineering trust, adhering to strict qualification, and commanding asymmetric leverage. Subscribe to US Binocs for more systemic business breakdowns, and leave your thoughts on these frameworks in the comments below.